Hello, I'm bassoonist Michael Burns, and today I'd like to talk about forming the bassoon embouchure. In order to do this, I want to talk about what an embouchure is, what I think an embouchure should do, and then thirdly, actually how to form it. This is actually a follow-up to an article that I've written about the bassoon embouchure that you can find on my website, michaelburnsbassoon.com. Embouchure is a French word, and to give a very loose translation, it's essentially the way that we hold our mouth in order to play our instrument, in this case the bassoon. So there is some debate about, do we mean the lips alone? Do we mean inside the mouth? Do we mean the jaw, the throat? How much is associated with the embouchure? For my purposes today, I'm going to be talking about the lips alone. And what I think of is that there are other interconnected systems as we move further inside the mouth and down through the body that are very important, but that we can control independently. So thinking of the lips alone, these small muscles that we have surrounding the mouth are designed for facial expressions, basically, and not designed to carry a heavy load. So what do I want my embouchure to do? Well, actually, I can sum that up very, very simply. What I want my embouchure to do is to seal around the reed, period. What I don't want the embouchure to do is to try and control my intonation, my dynamics, particularly those two things. And it may have, usually does have at least some impact on the sound that we're going to produce, the tone, but I also think that some people potentially overuse it even for that purpose. So now to talk about how we might ideally form the bassoon embouchure. The way that I prefer to address it is I don't want to have lips of steel, as I've heard some people refer to what they want their embouchure to do. What I actually want is lips of rubber. If you think of any time that you want to get a really nice seal with something, there's often a rubber gasket, whether it's inside the metal lid that goes onto a glass jar, or whether it is the inside of your car door. There's often a soft rubber that conforms to the shape and really fills in all the nooks and crannies to make the seal work. How do we achieve this on the bassoon? Well, we want to really make sure that we're getting a roundish shape, and I find the best analogy that I've used thus far is to think of the shape that we make when we are using a drinking straw. When you're using a drinking straw, you're forming a round shape around the straw itself, and of course we're sucking the liquid in. Now if we're having one of those particularly thick shakes, then sometimes we apply a lot of pressure and the straw collapses down on itself. The same thing can happen on the reed. So ideally it's going to create more or less equal pressure all around the sides of the reed and not overly much that is vertical from the top and bottom. I have heard many people make descriptions about requiring rolling in and creating soft cushions, and I don't really ascribe to that way of thinking because in my experience many students roll in too far, occasionally not enough, and also the soft cushion is a thing. We do need to make sure, especially if somebody is switching from a single reed, that they are fully covering the lower teeth, but that I've never had an issue with that. So the drinking straw analogy tends to be a very, very simple one. There are many more elements about the embouchure that I can get into. The one and only one I want to do today to ensure that this is a reasonably brief video is to think about jaw alignment. So what is most common with most people is that their upper teeth and their lower teeth don't fully meet absolutely parallel, but the upper teeth are ever so slightly in front of the lower. This is a fairly typical bite. Now, some people will have an overbite where the lower teeth are further back, and some people will have an underbite where the lower teeth are further forward relative to the upper. It used to be thought that the ideal bassoon embouchure required the player to produce a sometimes fairly exaggerated overbite, and I don't really ascribe to this either. What I like to do is think of the natural hinging of the jaw, and then there should be a gap. There needs to be a gap between the teeth, but really it's the natural bite. Now, if somebody just physiologically has either a strong under or overbite, they may need to compensate for that. But really, you don't need to pull that lower jaw back in order to produce a good, well-functioning bassoon embouchure. That's all I want to say for today. Happy bassooning. Thank you very much.